So, hello everybody. I'm here chatting with Pinky. So, want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, how are you? And my name is Pinky. I am the owner of Flaunt Fitness Pole and Aerial Studio in South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I have been polling for about 14 years. My current studio is actually a branch off of my first studio that I had with one of my best friends, which we originally had opened November of 2006. So I've been at this
Hmm.
for a little while.
Okay.
My best friend got out of everything, got out of the business basically like the end of 2011. And she just, was moving cross country. She's still a very, very, very good friend of mine. I go visit her all the time. But she got out of it. She, moved, was off doing her own thing, and basically, was like, here, if you want it, it's yours. At the time when we kind of separated, that studio, it was like not really doing that great. It's just a lot of business things, not being able to put money into it, and kind of
Right. Yeah.
what didn't really take off. So I had took it over. We officially opened under just myself as Flaunt Fitness March 1st of 2012. And I've basically grown the business. I started out with like 3 students. And yeah, literally. So my first space was in one of the same locations where my other studio was. It's like this little courtyard type situation. And basically that studio was like 800 square feet. We had 5 poles. It was like super teeny tiny, really cute, boutique-y. We outgrew that space in 6 months and had to move. So that was our first kind of like off the bat, like, here we go. I was still working a full-time job as a paralegal on top of running the studio full time and really trying to get everything picked back up and moving. So this is where we moved to this 2,200 square foot studio space, 14-foot ceilings. And when I tell you the studio was a complete mess when I first moved in, but the potential that I saw was like
Oh
glorious.
yeah.
So, 8 years later, 4 renovations done by myself, my husband, and my staff. Basically, when I say literally my blood, sweat, and tears are in the floors and walls of that
Oh
studio,
man.
but it's all there. It is all there. So now we got to the point where I've pretty much outgrown our space, and
Oh, again.
yeah, so now we're right before this COVID situation. We were actually, the week that everything shut down was the week that we were supposed to hear back if we were going to lock down the space or not. So we should have been signing a contract that week. And instead, here we are, and we're closed due to COVID. So.
Well, from what I hear, you are an excellent and a very good company. A lot of people seem to be expanding their pole studios or getting into owning new pole studios, which is actually very heartening. This means that pole as an industry as a whole is expanding. Awareness is going out, getting out there. Whereas probably when you started, like you said, you had like 3 students, so it was small, but it takes a little bit word of mouth to gear up, and it's becoming more
Yeah,
and
so
more.
we've never done any heavy advertising. The only advertising that we've really ever done was like Groupon. Otherwise, it is complete word of mouth, repeat customers. I still have customers that come to me who are like, Pinky, I took pole class with you back in 2006. I'm like, what? Like,
Oh
they
wow.
of course then had probably like 3 kids in the interim, and then they're like, I want to get my body back, and then they come back, and it's like one of the most heartwarming things ever in life. Like, it's full circle.
Hmm.
Full circle.
Oh man, the studio over in Rhode Island where I started and my lady started. It was all like you were describing. It was very small, very boutique-y, and she was having trouble. A lot of her students would get up, become instructors, and then open their own competing studio. And so she was so focused on working in the business, she didn't have a lot of time of working on the business.
Yeah.
I remember we ended up trading. I was saying, hey, for some discounts on some classes because I just want to show up randomly whenever I can and just play on the polls because it's fun.
Right.
Uh, I was like, I'll set up some online marketing for you, and then it expanded to like overnight. Like there is such a market. It went from maybe about 15 students to about 40 students in the span of like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes. Like once you get it, you're doing it all by word of
Get
mouth.
that burst. It's, everybody just
Yeah, that's exactly it. I remember talking to my mom. I was like, yeah, so, some pole dancing. And my mom's like, that'd be interesting. I'd be interested in trying that. I'm like, okay, mom.
Okay.
I mean, it's right over here. Go right ahead. Yeah, my family, we're all very good of just like, yeah, go ahead, do it. And more power to you. We
Yeah.
salute you. Yeah.
It's funny because I feel like as a studio owner, it's really hard there's a balance. There's a very big balance that you have to work really hard to do. And it's, running the business and then being in your business. Right.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so it's funny because I do see a lot of studios pop open and then typically will tend to shut down very quickly because it could be run by somebody who's an awesome pole dancer, but not very good at business.
I've been noticing that a lot.
Right. So I have just a quick background. I have a bachelor's degree in paralegal studies and business management. I was actually supposed to go to law school right before I got into my first studio, and I didn't go because I was like, wait a second, this is kind of interesting. I want to see where this takes me. And so till this day, I'm so happy that I didn't go to law school because there's no way that I would be in that profession anymore.
Right.
But because I had that business knowledge, I worked with so many different people working in a lot of different law firms. And so you really learn a lot. You know what I mean? I'm a very hands-on person. And so having that business aspect and also being in the business and teaching and all these things, I was constantly getting everything from both sides. So all the legality, all the contracts, all the paperwork, all, getting everything together, like, if you don't have help kind of doing that, it's kind of really tedious and like can be really discouraging and really confusing. And do I have the right insurance? And do I have the right business license? Do I have my occupancy thing? Like just all these things that people don't know. Like, most people don't know, like, okay, we have to pay to play music in our studios, our music licensing, like all these little things that people are like, wait, what? You have to pay for that? Like, if you're doing this stuff kind of on the fly and you're just trying to like pop open a studio because you love pole dancing, I've been really hearing a lot of studios that are popping up and closing really quickly for that reason. So I kind of find myself a little lucky to have had the opportunity to have been in such a professional career prior to this and during. I didn't quit my full-time paralegal job until 2015, and that's when I went full head on into my studio, and we've grown 30% to 40% every single year since then. Last year was like our record hit. We're six figures. I mean, it really blew up in I'd say the last 3 years have just been whoosh.
And I completely understand. I mentioned to you before while we're chatting, before we started talking in the interview, I'm just recently became the president of the America for IPDFA, which is a very interesting stark line because people have either heard of us or don't understand, don't know what it is before. Right. But I was in a very similar position. I was tapped, not just being friends with the president, Tracy Eccleston, but also because I have run and opened multiple businesses. And there is a very stark difference between having skill as a pole dancer, because I pole dance, but I wouldn't say I'm a pole dancer. And being able to build an organization that's actually going to help a community. I'm very community minded that way. Exactly. And before that, I was a magician and a juggler. So there,
that's awesome.
cross reference skills. I didn't have the corporate background. So even right now, I went into online marketing, and once you know online marketing, you can pretty much do whatever you want. To be like, I want to start an underwater basket weaving online course. And there's a way to get eyeballs onto it.
That's amazing.
But it really lets you touch in and understand what, like, a lot of struggles of what people have. So the things that you're talking about, it's not just endemic to the pole dance studio space, but so many different people say, hey, I want this. All I have to do is open the doors, and they don't realize, all right, getting all of your ducks in a row.
It's a lot of work to keep them gears moving,
Exactly. It's very easy to get all your ducks in a row, but you have to know what ducks are, what you need to do, get the list. And once you do it, you only have to do it once. One of my personal frustrations when I'm talking to business owners, and you being a paralegal probably have a lot of this all settled up, but a lot of them try to do their own finances and do their own bookkeeping. And I always say to business owners, there's a job that you can do, and then there's jobs that only you can do.
Yeah.
And you need to focus here, because if you can pay $50 to maybe $200 to have somebody do your bookkeeping for you, then that's time you're buying back.
Yeah.
It's not money, it's time. But with these,
I do I do all my own booking. But
oh, you do?
But I will tell you that I'm very diligent about it, only because I'm very organized. Like my accountant, listen, I paid my taxes last month. Like my taxes were done the second week of January, paid at the end of January. Like I'm done. You know what I mean? I literally walk into my accountant, I give him all my spreadsheets, and I mean, I'm like his best client ever. But QuickBooks, QuickBooks is one of those things where it's on your phone. I have my accounts that are set up that only studio business goes through. The receipts, you take a picture of it, goes to your email, you save it, and you put it right into the thing. I mean, there's definitely apps that are like, they make it so easy to track everything. And I really I handle very, very, when I say very minimal, like cash transactions are like maybe 3 a year. It has to be a dire situation that I'm going to take cash from somebody, just because it's something that I don't want to have to be responsible for tracking. So I'll have to say, I've been doing QuickBooks for the last 5 years, and my accountant absolutely he just I walk in, he's like, here you go, call me back, let me know when to come and sign everything, and that's it. So I feel like if you're on top of things and you're somebody that's extremely organized, like myself, and neurotic about these things, I feel like it's it's just another day. Just it's there.
I wish I had that skill set.
Not everybody does.
My first accountant was my friend. He has a master's in entrepreneurship and business. And I was like, hey, help me. Because at that time, I opened up a fireworks stand, because why not? So I opened it, and I'm just like, here are my receipts. And I literally pulled them out of my pockets. And he looked at this pile, and he says, Elliot, if I was a professional accountant, I would want to punch you in the face. I was like, but you're not, so you don't want to punch me in the face? He goes, there's the desire to punch you in the face. But after time, it's figuring out ways to shore up your weaknesses. If that's one of your strengths, I'm a creative by nature, but I'm very not organized. So likewise, we use things like Wave, which can integrate directly with QuickBooks for the same solution you have. You don't have to, everybody listening, you don't have to do it yourself. Somebody else has figured out a way so that you don't have to. You just have to spend the time not doing your books, but figuring out how to make somebody else or something else do your books. It's not that hard, guys. Yeah. And if it is that hard, there's a solution to make it not hard.
There's always a solution.
But I know one thing I've noticed with a lot of pole dance studio owners is there's usually one aspect that they're just really dive into, and they're just like, I could have other people do this, but this part's mine.
Yeah, and so I am that person who is awful at delegating. I'm completely stuck at delegating. And here's the thing. Let me go back for a quick sec. I don't have any kids. It's me and my husband and my one dog. I lost my other dog 2 years ago. Aww. And I am that worker bee. Whatever I have to do, I'm my body is go. I'm good on 4 hours of sleep, and then I could work a whole 20-hour day and be up the next day okay, go. So for me, I kind of I'm awful at delegating. So I handle all my own phone calls. The business line is a cell phone. It goes directly to me. Now I do have my hours where I don't take calls. I mean, my hand to God, we will get phone calls at 3 a.m. I don't know if it's people that don't realize that it goes to a cell phone, but why are you calling any business at 3 a.m? So
to interject a little bit, I called Pinki's cell phone. And
started kind of, picking pockets of, I'm more active around the phone when the class times are happening.
Mm.
And so I like if a student is like running late or like they need anything, I try to get them to more text. And that's been more of a thing lately. So the texting is like super, super easy. But I'm kind of like the face and the voice of my studio. And I think it's very comforting that when somebody calls for a question or for anything, and they're like, oh, who am I speaking with? And I'm like, oh, this is Pinki, I'm the owner. And they're like, oh my God, that's so amazing. So like, I feel like just, it's not really any sweat off of my butt. To be perfectly honest, I like having that immediate connection with my students and my members that are even new members that are coming in. So for me, I just, it's information that's off the fly. I don't have to go Google anything. Like I can tell them what's up right away, but I think it's very comforting for people to see such an active business owner in the business, because that's kind of, I built this community from nothing. And the community that I have, I mean, you're talking, over the last 8 years that we have maybe 20,000 people on our email list from the last 8 years, which is crazy. And we have, I think, like 450 active members as of right before COVID.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're busy, but it's this community that I've built of, Pole is for everyone and anyone, any age, any shape, any size. And it's the diversity of my members and my students and the staff, even, that people are like really welcomed by. And at the start of that, it's hearing my voice and me just being the Pinki person that I am, like, Flaunt Fitness, this is Pinki, can I help you? Like, that's how I answer the phone. And, that's just how I talk. And I'm super happy and I'm super, like, I guess, inviting. And I think that's really comforting for a lot of people, because I've had people tell me, oh, I called another studio and like, they just had such an attitude to start. And I'm like, ugh, why? Like,
Right? Yeah.
why? Like, why be an ass,
I
So,
mean, if you don't want to go to my studio, I know a way to.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like a lot of the things that I do, there's like 3 days out of the week where I'm not in the studio and my other instructors are teaching. I have a really solid squad. I have like 34 people that teach classes for me, between instructors and assistants.
Oh, wow.
So we're a squad in there. And so there's 3 days a week where I'm not in the studio. And those days, at least like one of the days, I definitely take for like, just family time and like,
Yep.
So I've definitely gotten better at taking the time for myself that I need to like kind of turn off the business for a minute. I have a really good voicemail where it's like, if you need immediate assistance, like leave us a, message, text us right away, text message. Now, like people start to know that that's like the quickest way to get a hold of us, and it's a quick response back. So
That's what I was about to say a little earlier. Your voicemail was an epic 30-second of, this is exactly how to get in contact with us. Depending on what your request is, here are 3 different channels you can get in touch, and there's more information right over here. I was like, hi. I waited for the beep, but the beep was, but it was good. It was good. Like if I had any questions, I would have known precisely what to do, where to go, how to contact you.
Yeah.
And then your cell phone was just off at that time, which my family's biggest frustration is I'm online all the time. So they're like, didn't you check Facebook? I'm like, no, what? I didn't. I didn't at all.
Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest struggles, since you've been doing this for so long, longer than I would say most of the other people that I've interviewed, or probably more, what would be some of the biggest struggles that you would say? You obviously have done it at this point, but you started small. What were the growing pains like?
Yeah, so the growing pains, the hardest thing was honestly working. I was working a full-time paralegal job as well as a part-time paralegal job on top of running my studio. So essentially my schedule was, I worked at one law firm from 7 in the morning till 10 in the morning. And then I would run 4 blocks, go 10:30 to 5 at my other office. And then I would go down to my studio and work like, 5:30, 6 o'clock till 10:30 to 11 o'clock at night, and kind of do it all the next day. So it was starting out and going from such a small space to a big space. I really didn't have staff yet. It was me teaching 4 or 5 classes a night. The weekends were crazy. I mean, I missed birthdays, family events, parties, christenings,
Mm.
weddings. I mean, it was, I'd say the first like 3 years, yeah, from 12 to 15 was a struggle. I mean, it was, keeping the studio afloat, and I basically continued to work full time for purposes of whatever money the studio was making, I was putting back in to get new
Yeah.
equipment, get better poles, you have to, that's one thing that my one friend, when I have our first studio, is she didn't want to put any money into it. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you want to get money out of it, you have to put money into it. Like, you don't have a choice. You can't grow a business with nothing. It's like word of mouth is one thing, but if your amenities aren't up to par, your poles aren't up to par, shit's broken, like nobody's going to come back. It's going to be a shithole, right? So like, you have to really keep up and maintain all these things, and it's important. And, luckily I had the opportunity to, work my full-time and part-time job. That money, was for my house and stuff. And then the studio money was just going literally right back into the studio. So it was a couple years before I had a good staff locked down to start to add more classes.
That's yeah, in online marketing, everybody says, hey, you just have to keep up the grind, keep up the grind. I don't really like that, because I'm just like, yeah, just keep on grinding, but for what end? You have to remember that you're grinding a tool to sharpness, not
Exactly.
just grinding for the sake of grinding, guys.
Exactly.
Okay. So what made you make the transition to say, okay, let's open up a studio? The joke that I like to make is, you don't just randomly wake up and be like, hey, I think I'm going to.
Yeah.
Aha!
So oddly enough, when I was in college, so I've been a dancer my whole life, ballet, tap, jazz, gymnastics since I was like 2. And when I went to college, I could not do anything. I mean, I was working at a law firm through college. And so I basically worked from 9 to 5, and then went to school 5:30 to 9:30, 4 nights a week, and then worked an after hours bar on the weekends to help pay for
Okay.
schooling. I was actually living with my husband at the time. He was then my boyfriend. I was only like 17, 18. And so from there, I didn't do anything for 4 years when I was in school. And right around the last year of schooling, I knew that I wanted to get back into dance, but I didn't know what I wanted to get back into. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, at 21, 22, graduating college, I'm not going back to jazz. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Yeah.
I can't see myself doing that. And so my husband was like, hey, I hear there's like people that are like doing pole dancing classes. I'm like, really? Like,
Yup.
yeah. And so I linked up with one of his buddies' wives at the time, and who's now my best friend. And
Okay.
we kicked open this studio. She was actually going to another studio in the area, and it was just not a good vibe, really.
I know
And
the types. Yeah.
we could do this ourselves. I'm like, yes, we can. And so
Oh
that's
man.
when the first studio was born. And then what I have now is just a jump off of that. And it's been an amazing ride. I like going back to, like, in 2006, we were, on 50 millimeter poles. They didn't spin. We had little minks, which were like powder coated, and it was like 7.5 feet. So you couldn't really do one climb and you were at the top. And
This is how you would climb in theory.
in theory, but like everybody wore shoes back then. We didn't not wear shoes, right? So every class we wore shoes. So for a while, it was not really as acrobatic and gymnasty as it has become in more recent years. And the evolution of pole clothes, because back then there wasn't really any pole clothing.
Right.
I mean, there was nothing really pole related that was out. There were no pole shorts. There was like no like grip that we knew about, like all these things. Yeah, we had no idea back then, and we were self-taught. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. There wasn't no like YouTube like there is today, or 1, 2, 3 polling or anything, like no pole dance dictionaries, nothing. So we just kind of went through and taught ourselves a bunch of shit, and we went with it. And one thing that I really actually attribute my teaching style, my teaching skills per se, are when I first started, pole was actually very, very difficult for me. It was very difficult. There was a lot of things that I didn't understand. I didn't understand how to, grip. I didn't understand how to activate my muscles. And being somebody that is super active in dance and fitness her whole life, cheerleader, sports,
Oh no.
not really knowing, like, what does it mean to pull down your shoulder? What does it mean to activate your lat? Like, what? Like, this isn't stuff that, sports people teach you in high school and grade school,
Oh, man.
And so pole dancing was very, very difficult for me. But over the years, as I progressed through teaching and things got easier, I really pinpointed what made those things easier. So this goes in with now that we're closed due to COVID, we've started online lessons, and my students are like forever grateful. But I'm able to verbally talk them through so many movements because I can really fine tune what they're not doing and be like, oh, okay, you're just not activating this. Oh, just straighten this. Or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I can really pinpoint down to the one thing that they're not doing to why they're not getting to move. And I think that's one reason why, the business has been super successful is people come into my classes or, classes with other instructors, and they feel super accomplished because they're getting these movements, but we're able to break them out to such a fine tune for them that it clicks almost instantly, where moves that took me, I say it all the time in class. I'm like, guys, this took me 3 weeks to learn how to do when I first started pole dancing. You guys got it in 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's always that kind of thing, but it's because I'm able just to really get down to the nitty gritty of the move. And I think people come in and they get it and they don't think they can do it, and they do it, and they're so encouraged and they're so excited, and they can't wait to come back and see what else they're going to do. And their bodies change so fast and they get strong so fast. And by their 5th class, they're doing things that on their first day, they were like, this is never going to happen.
Yeah.
And so it's just this amazing, like, ball of energy that just keeps snowballing. And then they bring their friends and they bring their friends, and like, here we are.
And I know exactly what you mean about teaching and really understanding the fine-tune ways. For a while, I had a girlfriend who was a very good gymnast, almost went to the Olympics, but her methodology, she was my partner, the acrobatics part of everything.
Sweet.
So her methodology was, I'm just going to keep on doing it until I get it, which is just kind of, running at a, and I would always annoy her. We were working on a passing routine, and there was this trick, a left-handed double, that I just couldn't get that one day. And so I did what everybody does. I sat down and read on my phone for 15 minutes, and she's like, and she's just practicing. She's like, what the heck are you doing? Then I get up and I do it right. And then I do it right. And then I do it. And just like, no. There's a 15% difference efficacy between doing it yourself and being tired and doing it mentally. And if you actually walk yourself through the motions and think about it a little bit better, like I only digest that way. So it looks like I'm slower than many other people who would do it, which is what I see with a lot of other studios. It's very, hey, just keep on doing this. Just keep on doing this. And I really like to dial in on just like, no, you put your foot around here.
Yeah.
And you're going to put your weight here. And then you're going to spend, don't say, oh, it's kind of like, and then show me. No. Like
Exactly.
every kick has 4 parts to it, but people say, kick it. And it's like, no, 4 parts, identify each. And then you can go and do the spin.
Yeah. So that's been something that has been helping my students a lot, even with the virtual classes. They're like, wow, like, Pinki, like, you can break that out by words. Like, you don't even have to be touching me, which is great, So it's really been helping the students, in the studio and now with the virtual classes.
Oh, excellent. So you mentioned virtual classes, and I kind of want to touch on that. I have the most generic question in the entire world of, hey, how has the quarantines affected your studio? And we've talked completely around it, but what was your journey for that? Not just on a business thing, but you emotionally. You mentioned you had some big projects that were about to happen.
Yeah. So, like I said, the week that we were ordered to close was supposed to be the week that we were going to find out if we were getting this new space or not. And I'm hoping. I'm very hopeful that we're going to come out of this on top, and we will eventually be able to get into the space that I want. It's going to take some work and some perseverance, but I'm here for it. So
Yeah, it sounds like you've always been here for it.
yeah,
Like straight from college, be like, I don't feel like doing anything that's not super effective. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yep. I mean, I'm that person who like got married at 23, bought a house at 24, already had a business, like,
Yeah.
you know. But so oddly enough, when we had to close, I actually, the day that we decided to close, it was like the 16th of March. Early in the morning, I made the call, and later on that day is actually when they put in the order that all non-essential businesses would have to close. So I was kind of ahead of the curve on that. And prior to that, like the whole week before, I mean, I was in the studio cleaning 3 times a day. I would clean in the morning, in the afternoon after the morning and afternoon classes, and then again at night after the evening classes. Like bleach, you name it, everything was getting scrubbed down head to toe. And so I knew that the closure was coming, and I kind of, set myself up for it, and quickly started to research like online classes and like all this stuff. And so I spent from Monday when we closed, basically we started online classes on Wednesday. So for like 36 straight hours, I basically was on the computer, like doing all the emails, resetting all the schedule, getting all the Zoom set up, like just literally setting up every single thing. Like my eyes were like this. Like I haven't been on a computer that long since I worked full-time in the law firm. But the students could not believe how fast we got everything up and running from Monday close to Wednesday 7 a.m. was our first virtual class. So I taught the first pole virtual class, because we're doing pole, and many of our students actually have poles at home, as well as a lot of our members who no longer live in Philly. So we have a lot of people that pass through from other countries. So like Philippines, Peru, like we have people everywhere, other states. So they're all jumping in as well. They're so excited that we're doing this. So I taught the first pole class on that Wednesday, the 18th, and I was so nervous. I felt like I was teaching my very first pole class again. I knew everybody that was in the class. Like everybody has to register through our registration system. We're doing a really good, cheap pass I'll talk about in a minute. But I was I was shaking the whole time that I was teaching, like shaking. I mean, you couldn't really tell, but my nerves were definitely shot. And then as soon as I ended the class, I had such amazing feedback from everybody. I mean, I think I had 17 people in my first pole class, which was phenomenal, especially for being at home. Right. And I ended the class and I immediately started hysterical crying. And it was all these emotions that like, I miss everybody so much, but it was so heartwarming to see everybody's face on the little Zoom panels. And, it was very overwhelming. And then I kind of like, it's like, all right, like we can do this. Everybody's really supportive. All the students are really supportive. All the instructors are really supportive. We have 30 classes a week on our virtual schedule. Like, I mean, wow. It's crazy. Yeah, we have a crazy virtual schedule. And I realize now that we've been closed for a full week and a couple days or so is one thing that I've realized, or two things that I've realized, is I miss everybody so much. Like I am such like, I'm like the mom, like I miss my kids, like I miss my babies. So while it's really nice to see everybody, I need, like, I am such a hugger. I like just hug it out with everybody, and that's just like my soul. So I really miss everybody, and I realized that I literally would die without my studio. This has been something that has just brought me so much joy and so much happiness, and has brought the most amazing people into my life. My most like best friends, like godmom to their kids, people that have taught for me at the studio, still continue to teach for me. It's just that big of a community and that big of a family that I could never ever go back to working a 9-to-5 job.
I
Like
know what
the
you mean.
studio, this is it for me. I will sign a 20-year lease if we get this new spot. Like I am in it for the long haul. This is my baby. I've grown it from a little seedling, and when you have that kind of perseverance and that push and that drive, it's really hard to be unstoppable. So even in this whole COVID thing, I have all the confidence in the world. Our students love us. They can't wait to get back. They're keeping their monthly memberships running for us. In lieu, they're getting, extensions on those and virtual classes. So we're working out deals with everybody, and everybody's really, really happy to help and to be there. They love the studio as much as I do. So it's really nice to have that reciprocating, through everybody that is around and a member of Flaunt, the family.
That's excellent. And for everybody who is tuning in, entrepreneurship, once you go, you can't go back. It's always that thing, because no matter what, I play a game actively with my family. I don't care what business it is. You get to have a sort of business sense. I will go into a coffee shop and be like, if I had $10,000 and a week's worth of time, what are the 3 things I would change? Like, what would I do? And if I ever start working with somebody, I know that I could do as good a job, if not better. I can see all the different things that they're not aware of. So it sounds like you really have your ducks in a row ever since this hit. You hit the ground running. I think type A might not be the best personality type, because it's not hard enough. It seems like you just keep on going. Once you decide in a direction, you just keep on blowing right through it. You've been having some really massive success, and I could even see, just watching your face, the tidal wave of emotions and support. I'm much the same way. Like I like working with people. I like helping out other people, and I like just being the person that drives everything together. That's part of the reason why I'm doing these interviews, is I was just like, well, I want to know, I want to talk to people, and I you know what? I also want to demystify. It's like, hey, one pole dance studio owner, and the next one you might know might be yourself. Like, really, we're going to grow. People don't, like with your husband, Destiny, my fiance, my lady. She had a very similar experience. She goes, I want to go into dancing, and I was thinking ballroom dancing or pole dancing. I'm just like, oh, do pole dancing, and then do pole dancing, and now everybody around me was like, I'm just like, because it's a full body exercise that hits everything. This is ballroom, which just teaches you a little bit of, come on, guys.
I'm pretty sure I attribute pole dancing to why I'm still with my husband. We've been together for almost 18 years, married for 11.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, see, exactly. It's just, yep, it's a thing. And I really, another compliment, sorry, but I really like how it's called Flaunt Fitness, and the way that you.
That's my husband. I can't even take credit for the name.
Oh, really?
My husband.
If he's still listening in, then kudos to you. My hat's off to the chef.
Yeah, Flaunt Fitness. Get fit and flaunt it. That's all my husband. I cannot take any credit for that whatsoever. He was a nightclub and a fight promoter, and so he always had all these crazy ideas. And the studio in turn was like almost his crazy idea. Like he was like, why don't you do pole dancing? And then it kind of sprung from there.
To him, I'm usually in that place. I really help build up and just point people in the right directions. Just adding that little extra thing. Especially my business partner thinks much the same way that you do. So I know how you can drive wall, and then you just need a little drive wall. Yeah.
Yep.
So this has been excellent. This kind of all ran itself. I didn't even really have to ask too many questions. So that's pretty nice to kind of flip the switch.
I know my business,
Yeah, no, and you're a great storyteller. I love those.
Thanks.
Is there anything that you want to share with everybody else? Like, not just, hey, pole dance studio and hey, all be together, but something that only you can tell people. An example, last time I chatted with somebody who's a statistician. So I'm just like, hey, so share something that somebody can break away from that. You're a very paralegals are ruthlessly efficient and logical in their thinking. What's something that you feel you can add that goes beyond just the medium of you're a pole dance studio owner?
I mean, I guess it just, you know, people need to be like maybe more involved and like try to be involved in anything that you can in your business and things that are happening, and try not to turn a blind eye to things. Like I know, like I make myself know kind of everything, like all the ins and all the outs, and knowledge is power. You know what I mean? The more you know kind of situation.
Yeah.
And any business owner in general just has to be very, adhering to their clientele base and what their members want, and what they're looking for, and what kind of community you're kind of trying to build in that facet, if you may. So just staying positive, staying on track, setting up. This is something that's worked for me. I set up 3-year goals for myself. I'm a short-term goal person, and I usually try to accomplish those goals in what would be 3 years in like 1 year, or my 5-year goals I accomplish in 2 to 3 years. And so it's setting up these little goals for yourself. It's like, all right, well, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Well, it's kind of really far down the line. I know where I want to be, but what are the steps in between that I have to take to get me to that point? And so something that's been super successful for myself, and if people aren't already doing this, they should be doing this, is setting up intermittent goals for themselves and for their business and where they need to be. So like I set up my last year's goal. I gave myself 2 years to get my business out of debt. I did it in actually 10 months. And that was last year. So, I hit that goal a little over a year early. So it's really fine tuning things and knowing what you want out of your business. Like, where are you now? What's your end result? Where do you see yourself at some point when you're ready to retire? Like, we all know we can't be really pole dancing forever, but like, what's your start? What's your end? And kind of fill in all the blanks in between, but not getting overwhelmed with the later stuff, but rather really focusing on those short-term.
In a kind of chaotic example, I own several online teaching courses on a variety of subjects.
That's
like
awesome.
One is drawing, how to draw in a short amount of time. I'm not going to plug it here, but when I broke down exactly what needed to happen, actually make the course was so far towards the bottom. Everything else was setting things up, like even finding out, are people interested? The worst thing that I see that that you can do as a business owner is say, hey, I know what I'm going to do and what needs to be done, and then just go having blinders. Selective blinders are important, but you're always wrong.
Right.
Now laying everything out, the opposite end of this is knowing when to let go and get on with your life.
Right.
Like you say QuickBooks, and then other people say, but what about this solution? What about this solution? It's like, well, QuickBooks does what I need, and so I got on with my life and I stopped looking.
Yeah.
Like people always say, hey, it's in the last place that you look, and then other people joke and they're like, well, yeah, otherwise you keep on looking. But that's what people do.
Right.
You say, what's slightly more efficient? It's like, I don't know, not spending 4 hours discovering the next part.
Right.
So knowing when to let go, it is what is, I see a very big difference, a differentiator between people who are very efficient and people who constantly feel like they're spinning their wheels.
Exactly.
Like, where's good enough? Check mark. And now let's go on.
Yep.
All right. Unless there's anything else you want to end,
Yeah, I mean, if I could just plug the online classes, we just switched out of Mind Body because, oh Lord, I can't anymore.
I am very familiar with Mind Body.
Yeah. We're with Schedule House now, which is phenomenal. It is such an easy transition. But basically, Schedule House app. You can download right to your phone to get into our virtual classes. We have like 30 classes. I mean, we have twerk. We had a class last night called Furniture Play, which is taught by our instructor, Erica, who typically teaches seductive at our studio. But we wanted to kind of show people how to use their furniture in their living room to slink and, be sexy on. So there's some really creative, really fun classes, a lot of fitness classes, a lot of pole classes. We have twerk on there. We have conditioning classes, HIIT classes, flexi, handstands. I mean, you name it, we have it. So Schedule House, you can download the app to your mobile device, search Flaunt Fitness, everything's there. We're doing $35 unlimited for 2 weeks of virtual classes. That's 60 classes that you could potentially take if you have a pole at home. Over 2
nothing
weeks
to do.
$35 and you got nothing to do. And they're more, they start at 7 in the morning and they go till like 9, 10 o'clock at night. So otherwise, you could check out our website, flauntfitness.net. Under the registration tab, you can also register for the classes from there. So as of now, we're set to reopen on April 7th, but that could change. We're hoping that it doesn't, but that's where we are as of today.
A large amount of ellipses and an asterisk there.
Yeah, so we'll see, but we do actually plan on, as per many requests, we are building an online platform to offer online lessons once the studio is even open back up, for our members who may be out of state, or maybe, have at-home poles and have a good studio near them and are looking for really good classes, really like hands-on without being hands-on, if you know what I mean. So a lot of our members that have moved are strongly requested us to continue with the virtual classes. So like I said, we're looking for a platform to continue to do that once we do reopen.
All right. Well, perfect. That was well laid out, as if you had thought about it once or twice before. How to
it just flows.
it just flows.
Rolls off the tongue.
All right, I'm going to cap the interview here, and I'd like to chat with you for a couple minutes afterwards. But for everybody who's tuning in right at the end, well, thank you very much, Pinki, for your time. It's been excellent meeting your acquaintance, and I hope that we chat again soon.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you so much.